Welcome to the Energy Exchange, a podcast for deep feelers and quiet leaders. Here, we explore what happens when we start working with our natural energy in both our business and personal lives. I'm Colleen Wallach. I'm a highly sensitive professional who spent years untangling patterns of overthinking, people-pleasing, and playing small just to feel safe. Now, I help others like me step more fully into their power without losing the superpower of their softness. We don't have to be loud to be seen, and we don't have to push to be powerful. Everything is energy. Let's start this exchange. Welcome into this week's episode of the Energy Exchange. I hope you're having a great week. I just returned home to Montana from about 3.5 weeks away. So I'm excited to be back to some routines and structure finally. I did check my mailbox for the first time since, December 15th or so. It was nice to get all those holiday cards, a nice little welcome home moment, but glad to be back into structure and routines. Today, I wanted to cover a topic that applies to just about everyone at some point or another, that being imposter syndrome. But I especially want to talk about how imposter syndrome gets really tricky, extra tricky, if you're a deeply feeling person. There are some nuances here that I don't think get talked about enough. So that's what we're going to unpack today. Now, I know you know what imposter syndrome is. It's on some level, but just in case, imposter syndrome is really that belief that your success, your skill set, or your position aren't fully earned. And that at some point, someone is going to realize that and realize that you're a fraud. And there's an important distinction between imposter syndrome and self-doubt, which is extra super common, right? This isn't just a little tiny nagging feeling that you would call self-doubt. This is a real embodied feeling that you don't actually belong in the spaces that you're showing up in. And this gets especially tricky for highly sensitive, deep feeling people because you might have a heightened awareness of other people. And whether that awareness is accurate or not, you might be thinking about what they're thinking and how they're feeling in relation to you. Maybe you're looking at where you're standing from their perspective. So it becomes this really heightened dose of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome can show up in a lot of different ways, but the really cool thing to know about it is that it doesn't usually show up when you're unprepared. It shows up when you're expanding. Like the reason you're feeling it is because you've been put in a new room, a new role, a new stage, a new position. So the stakes feel higher than they did in the spaces that you've already been in. And that's where these thoughts creep in. So if you're feeling a twinge of imposter syndrome, you have to remember that it's actually a sign that you're on the edge of something really cool. Like we have to reframe this. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to confidently step into the spaces we're meant to be in. So before we dive into how to reframe this and move forward, I want to take a look at why it's happening in the first place. And more specifically, why imposter syndrome is more common or maybe more intense for deeply sensitive people. You're probably very self-aware. You see nuance, you see gaps in things, you see complexity and layers. And often that self-awareness serves you really well in life, right? But other times it can be a really huge block to what you're wanting to do or create. And there are people out there who rarely question themselves. Like their confidence is very bold and very loud, even when it's not accurate. But if you're really attuned, you might feel the weight of responsibility, or you might worry about misleading others or misrepresenting yourself, maybe overstating your skill set. So sometimes an excess of awareness becomes a real hindrance, especially when you're stepping into something very new and very different. There are some very common imposter thoughts that I certainly had when I first tried stepping into more of a teacher role. Who am I to say this? Who am I to teach this? Who am I to take up space in this arena? And these thoughts might show up when you're creating content for your business, maybe launching a new business. Even just sharing your opinion publicly, whether that's in a meeting at work or in a friend group or on social media, that can certainly be a time where you have that little twinge of like, oh, should I be talking about this? But whatever you think about your deservedness to be there or to say that thing, there's something about your experience, your skill set, your following, whether that's social media or in the workplace. There's something about those things that have earned you that spot. And social media has absolutely exacerbated imposter syndrome. Like, it creates constant comparison. And then this sense that, oh, that thing has already been said. Someone else is already doing this. And that alone blocks a lot of people from putting things out into the world. When I was first thinking about topics I wanted to write about, even while writing my book, The Empath Detox, I had thoughts like, someone's already said this. This isn't new. And certainly now, I'd probably think, well, someone could just pull all of this information up on ChatGPT. My algorithm, and I'm sure yours is the same, it feeds me a lot of content related to what I talk about and what I'm into. So that creates this illusion that there's already an abundance of that content. Like, I don't need to be another voice. So it's easy to feel like we're too late, like we don't have anything new to offer, or that it'll look like we're copying someone else. But in a sea full of voices, your voice deeply matters. And remember that most ideas are going to land differently for people based on the delivery of the message, based on the voice, the tone of the person delivering it, and then also the life experience and perspective of that person. And on the flip side of that, there are people I won't listen to, even if they're saying great things, because I just don't like the sound of their voice. Maybe if they wrote it out, I'd read it, but I don't want to listen to them. But someone else can say the same thing and it lands completely different for me. People aren't going to follow creators or leaders just for their originality. They're following for resonance. There is a real cost associated with imposter syndrome, not just for you, but for everyone that you could impact. Beyond self-doubt and what it does to our confidence, imposter syndrome keeps you quiet. Maybe you don't speak up in a meeting, or you don't share content that could help someone. It also keeps you waiting for permission. Maybe you don't raise your hand for that promotion at work, or you don't put yourself out there. And it also keeps you shrinking. It causes us to contract and back further away from where we're headed. And this shrinking happens really quietly over time. You might not even know that it's happening until you've really put yourself into a hole. So how do we interrupt the pattern? I wanted to share a few reframes that have helped me a lot throughout the years. First up, if you're feeling like I'm not an expert, just know that whatever you're speaking about, whatever your knowledge, there is someone somewhere who needs to hear it the way that you say it, with your vocabulary, your voice, and your relatability to them. And even at your level of expertise, however entry level or advanced that might be. Your current level is perfect for a very specific group. Like, the most expert person can actually feel really out of reach for them. Like, their information and their delivery might be too complex or too far removed for them to really latch onto it. And then, of course, as you grow in your knowledge and experience, your audience is going to grow with you. Same thing in the workplace. As you expand, you'll step into larger roles. You'll work with different people and take on different responsibilities. But where you are right now, there is an audience and a need for that very specific spot that you're in. Another one that I hear a lot is, well, other people are already saying this. And that's kind of a wild excuse when you think about it. Like, there are billions of people on the planet. And do you really think you're the only person who's ever going to have that particular thought or idea? Like, of course not. And do you really think that everyone who needs that message is already following the person that you saw say it? You're not going to say the exact same thing in the exact same way. Like, your life experience, your personality, your history, all of those things add layers. You're going to express it differently. You're going to emphasize different things, and you're going to attract different people. And the cool thing about lots of people discussing it, all that means is that the message matters. Important ideas attract a lot of voices. So add yours to the mix, like bring a new audience into that message. Another common one is maybe feeling like you don't have enough experience. Maybe you're looking around and thinking, well, they've got more education than me, more certifications, or they've been in this longer. But credentials don't create connection. Like, when's the last time you checked the credentials of a professional that you went in to see, whether it's a physical therapist or maybe someone you're following on social media, a personal trainer? People do not care about credentials. They care about relatability. People will connect with you because there's something about your story, your tone, your personality, the way you explain things. There's something about you that makes them feel understood or makes them feel like you could help them. If people resonate with you, you're the right person, period. Those are just the most common thoughts I've had about myself when it comes to imposter syndrome, and a lot of my clients are dealing with. So to close this out, it's important to remember that imposter syndrome is actually a really strong sign that you're stepping into something big. So when that self-doubt shows up, we just want to re-anchor in our self-trust and remember that, your voice is valid, your perspective matters, and you're allowed to take up space. Everyone else is, why shouldn't you? And look, some people will not resonate with what you're up to. I've dealt with that my entire life, and it's okay. But others will resonate very deeply. And once you find those people, you will not care about the ones that don't get it. I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I'd love to hear about your experiences with imposter syndrome and how you're getting around it. Find me on Instagram at the.energy.exchange. That's with an X. Or send me a note through my website, justonewoo.com. Thanks for listening, guys. I will chat with you next week.